right, let's kickstart today's business now, as we were going to be starting with the Agency for Repentant Boko Haram members, as of course we had news of the Senate planning to rehabilitate members of Boko Haram, members of Boko Haram who were actually repentant. Now, the Senate on Thursday started the process of establishing an agency that would fully reintegrate repentant Boko Haram terrorists into the Nigerian society. The bill to establish the agency passed first reading at plenary. The proposed agency, according to the proposed legislation, would provide education for insurgents. It would also rehabilitate, de-radicalize, and integrate the repentant insurgents in the country. The bill is titled National Agency for the Education, Rehabilitation, De-radicalization, and Integration of Repentant Insurgents in Nigeria. It was sponsored by the All Progressives Congress member representing Yobe East Senatorial District, Senator Ibrahim Gedam. Of course, there are recent reports that the Nigerian military has a rehabilitation center for repentant Boko Haram terrorists in Gobe State. The center, it was also reported, had trained and rehabilitated over 1,000 insurgents since its inception over 3 years ago. So now we're having issues of rehabilitating and reinstituting repentant, as they say, Boko Haram members. Meanwhile, we also had news of attacks in Adamawa State, and of course we had gun duels in Yobe. So we still have Boko Haram insurgents spreading their tentacles in the northern part of Nigeria while we plan to rehabilitate them. Yemi Saka, what's your take on this? I mean, have mercy on repentant sinners, don't you?
I'm not God.
Okay.
I'm not God. Though I pray to God to forgive me of my sins as I forgive those who trespass against me. But I'm not God, so I don't have the power to forgive people that I've killed. But I remember when I was in the university, I think that was after the gruesome murder of Africa in OAU. There was this wave of renunciation across campuses. I was in the University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, as at that time. At the University of Abeokuta, I can't speak for now, but then till when I left the university, there was no case of anybody being killed, despite the fact that we had these groups on campus. And when the list was released and what have you, and they called them for rehabilitation, the rehabilitation was done, I think in collaboration with the National Psychiatric Hospital, Aro, Abeokuta. And to people that went there, that participated, they said they were given blank boards to draw human beings, just to show the level of how ingrained violence is in your system. And now, it brings it back to the question of the Nigerian Army claiming it as a center for such. How many psychologists, psychiatrists were involved in such radicalization? That is one. In my own knowledge, study on the understanding of terrorism and handling terrorists and converting them to assets and what have you, you don't even attempt to de-radicalize them because they will always fool you. They will always do that. What you do to them, and I've said it a couple of times on this platform, that America is and was not mad citing Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, not even on America's territory. Till tomorrow, there are still people in Guantanamo Bay. Nobody has been released under the guise of de-radicalization. I can bet you to anybody released is being released back into the field as assets to the American government, CIA and what have you. Now, it brings us to the question of the sincerity and the intelligence of this country, this government. Okay. Because they are arrogantly foolishly sticking to this de-radicalization program. And for as much as they want to sustain it and advance it or probably promote it, Boko Haram is giving them the middle finger. You've been releasing radicalized Boko Haram insurgents, and they are still attacking your country. Are you negotiating? Are you probably doing this from a defeatist position? How do you want to tell the rank and file right there on the field? People, they have risked their lives. People are perpetually maimed for life. They cannot walk, use any of their limbs, and you're now releasing their killers. It is. I would say this. I don't need to come with nice words. It is just pure foolishness and wickedness on the part of the federal government. And the man that came up with such a bill, I think we should subject him to a serious mental evaluation. Because I can't understand if these are the parts of people in the legislature chamber making laws for Nigerians and Nigeria as a country. We are doomed. Yeah, thank God that Senator Ali Ndume came out and said he didn't support that. This is, and you see, when I was telling Nigerians that I'm not being tribalistic here, the Northerners are not angry enough. They are just a little bit pissed with Boko Haram and its insecurity. That's why, because if a senator from a state that is still ravaged with Boko Haram can come up with such nonsensical, idiotic bill, when people are still dying, soldiers are still dying, when we still need to even recruit at least 200,000 men to fight this war, where's the encouragement coming from? Sheka still threatening Buhari that if he just step onto Maiduguri soil, yeah. And you're still telling me, you peeing on my face that you want to, you see, it's whether they like it or not, it gives credence to people that have been alleging and accusing this government of complicity. Exactly. In the case of the insecurity plaguing us. I will tell you, you want to create the agency for what? You see, everything about this ongoing Boko Haram thing, that we are still fighting this war this long. And like I said it, what sustained this war during the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan is what is still sustained during the regime of President Major General Muhammadu Buhari retired. Money. It's not patriotism, money. Because now you want to create the agency for Repentant Boko Haram, you create centers, you employ trainers, you give them money, and then you now vote taxpayers' money to train killers. Spare me. Okay,
obviously Yemi Saka does not agree with that, and of course
I will not agree. I will never agree.
Okay, and of course it also brings us the issue of while we are trying to rehabilitate and de-radicalize repentant Boko Haram members, we know that the federal government and Nigeria generally is still struggling to even rehabilitate the internally displaced people. That's people who have been displaced due to the insurgents from Boko Haram. So again, Ayo Baje, what's your take on this?
Thank you very much for this question. As far as I'm concerned, the very idea of granting amnesty to heartless, conscienceless, cruel killers is an insult on the collective psyche and souls of Nigerians. We will go back in time. Back in 2015, one Richard Greenwell, who was America's U.S. ambassador to Germany, wrote a brilliant piece on, the issue of connecting some of the people that were angling for positions in Nigeria's democracy. And he warned that these people have links and they have connections with highly placed and well-armed and well-trained insurgents, not just in Nigeria, but in other countries. And that having them in power will more or less exacerbate the problem that we already had on ground. I consider it an insult on Nigerians because you cannot have in place what we call the culture of crass impunity. Someone does wrong and you don't punish him. We're not talking about creating an agency to take care of the widows, to take care of the victims who are voiceless, to take care of those in big camps that are feeding on onion leaves, to take care of women there that are being raped. We are thinking about rehabilitating those who are already, immersed in some form of radical belief in what they are doing. Late Chairman Mao of China said, if you are a leader, you should be strong with the strong. You should be ruthless with the ruthless. And you should be kind to those who are kind-hearted. The other angle of this whole, shenanigan is that, like I asked here the other time I was here, Nigerians have to start asking, who are those benefiting from these killings? Some people are benefiting, and that's why it's long lasting. It's an insult on Nigeria because President Muhammad Buhari, back in 2015, when he was campaigning, promised that he was going to deal with, Boko Haram insurgency within 3 months. Here we are 5 years later, and the issue is getting out of hand. How do you spend public money that will have, advanced the issue of healthcare delivery, money that will have advanced the issue of delivering quality education, to the people. How do you spend such money, trying to cater for those who are already killers? Of recent, just about a week ago, Fulani herdsmen killed, or allegedly killed some farmers in Delta State. And soon after, the investigation revealed that it was, the so-called people that were involved, those who killed, were the members of those who claimed that they had been radicalized. So how do we explain that? See, I think that we are also being insulted because of the humongous sums of money that has been spent from our public, the national till. At a point, 100 billion was taken without even going through the due process to, fight this insurgency. Nobody's accounting to anybody. We don't know where the money is going to. Consider from 2015 till now, the sums of money that is voted to, the issue of security. Every, budget, every year you have a national budget. So what do? Which means there is no value for money. You spend a lot of money, or you take a lot of money and say, you are keeping it into fighting insurgency. But the worse it becomes. Then we ask ourselves, the circumstances in which some former, military men have died is very painful. Because, I think I saw some posts on Facebook, and then the issue was that soldiers are crying. These are soldiers that are not well armed. So, the money that was taken was not used to arm them. They are, fighting against those people that are already well armed. And they are now saying, why are you releasing these people? You are releasing our killers. So I think, for me, I never knew that Nigeria would get to this depth of depravity, moral depravity in the 21st century. When we talk about the primary purpose of government being, guaranteeing and ensuring that you are secure, and then, of course, providing welfare. So when these two issues are not provided, so where is the government? Okay. Where is that government?
All right.
I consider it an insult on Nigerians. Okay. And it must not pass, the stage of...
So we treat National Assembly.
Student.
From this, we treat National Assembly.
What? We are here.
Okay, Aya, you talked about the soldiers crying that these were our killers. Do you see a state of anarchy because President Muhammadu Buhari has called on Nigerians not to retaliate? Now, do you see Nigerians in another way getting angry and retaliating and causing a state of anarchy?
Very good question. President Muhammadu Buhari telling Nigerians not to what? Retaliate. Not to retaliate. Remember T.Y. Danjuma, Lieutenant, retired, said all Nigerians to rise up and be ready to defend themselves. Now, ask yourself, why will a president tell, the citizens not to retaliate? And then they have taken the war to his own state, Katsina State. And you heard, if you had been following it, you will have read what happened, that after people are being killed in large numbers, sometimes 23, sometimes 35 or so, you hear that they are collecting money. The citizens are getting money ready to appease the insurgents or the bandits and all the rest. In what type, which other country do you have this type of thing happening? So which means that the life of the average Nigerian is not important to anybody in government. That is what we are saying now. Which means our life is valueless. Which means, if it means that the fellow who is saying you should not retaliate has something to hide.
Okay, quickly.
A quick one for me. I think we should get this straight. In 2015, when they got into power, and to buttress what Lieutenant General Botai said, not because I support all his arguments, said after we're done with insurgency, we'll be battling with terrorism. And I gave instances. The 13 days lap between the day he gave the order to go straight Muhammadu Buhari for them to relocate to Command and Control Center to Maiduguri before the order was effected, and everything will give room for these people to move away from the militarized zone into safer corridors and either create or activate sleeper cells.
Yeah.
And that's what, so all this issue of you saying bandits is attacking in Niger State, bandits is attacking in Katsina, in whatever, you have it is purely Boko Haram attacking. That is it. Let's get that straight. And to buttress what you said, I was in Kaduna early 2015, 2016. There's an IDP camp in Rigasa, self-acclaimed camp, and there's one about just in Kaduna. If you go to those two camps and you hear and you see Senator Gaydon that was mooting this idea of agency for rotation, I can tell you to take God to hold you back from not whipping him off his clothes.
Okay.
His clothes
all right.
Just before you go to him, we must take our governors, especially those in the north where this terrorism is taking place, we must look at the antecedents very well. The same man, the former governor of Borno State, who is sponsoring this bill.
No, it's Yobe
State. Sponsoring this bill. There was a time the man made a statement during the tenure of Goodluck Jonathan that he had knowledge of where the Chibok girls were kept. That's one. Another governor told the whole world that he has identified the killers in Kaduna State and paid them off. Who is fooling who? And who is allowing himself to be fooled?
Okay, that's a question for everyone to answer here. Okay, Victor Aya, what's your own take on it?
Well, my colleagues here look to be surprised the way they are discussing this issue. I'm not surprised with what is happening. I'm never surprised. Because if you follow antecedents of how people have been talking about this Boko Haram, we know that they have affinities with some people in this country. Very powerful people. Because when certain people were in the opposition, they told us that Boko Haram was fighting a just cause. Go and check your papers from 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. They said that they were fighting a just cause. A prominent person in this country told us that how can the sharing formula of this country guarantee peace? That it was the sharing formula that is making Boko Haram to fight, and that they were fighting for justice. Then another prominent person who is in government today told us when Boko Haram was proscribed that the proscription of Boko Haram was against the constitution. They are in government today. Another one said that the fight against Boko Haram was a fight against the North. They are in government today. So this statement I have made, what do they typify? Are they not statements of people that have affinity? Are they not statements of people that have support? So if people have support for killers, what do you think will happen? Are they going to change overnight? They are not going to change overnight. So when I see them talking, when I heard them talking, they were talking as if they have not been following the trend. If you have been following the trend, you know that these people have support. They have support because, for instance, if you are fighting insurgency, why don't you cut off the source of their income? The source of the income, how are they getting money? Nobody have told us that, okay, we have be able to cut off their source of income. Once you cut off the source of income of the insurgents, you have capacitated them. Why are they not doing that?
Sorry. You see, if I to buttress your point, rather than cut it off, the government is even funding them. And I'll tell you how. They are paying ransom. When you pay them huge ransom, I think they are going to use it to go and buy gala.
They are paying huge ransom, and again, the same people that are kidnapping Nigerians every day, demanding for millions, none of them have been arrested and tried. And you say they don't have support? We were told that these Boko Haram members were people trained in Libya. The question I've often asked is that, is it only Nigeria we have in West Africa sub-region? How come it is only Nigeria we have such militant insurgents? Why are they not in Ghana? Why are they not in Togo? Togo is a very small country. Their military strength is not as strong as Nigeria. Why are they not dominant? Why are they not there in the first place? Not talk of their strength. Why are they not there? Why are they not in Republic of Benin here? Our nearby country, very small country. Why are they not in Chad? Why are they not in Niger? If they don't have support. Then you talk about herdsmen. They are killing people on a daily basis. Why are they not in all these countries? So I'm not surprised about what is happening, because there is great support for these people.
In other words, the federal government is not sincere with it.
There's no sincerity.
So,
There is no sincerity. Okay, for instance, if you see just an oil pipeline burst in Niger Delta, you will see the volume, the number of Navy officers that will bombard that place. How come that the solid minerals that are being mined illegally in the north, have you ever heard one day that any illegal mining site was set ablaze the way as they are setting ablaze illegal refineries in the Niger Delta? Have you ever heard it once? So people who are deceiving themselves that we are one in this country, they are just wallowing in ignorance. There is the insinuation that agenda is going on by some Nigerians cannot be disputed. There's an agenda that is going on. Yes. How come that we are suddenly hearing about visa on arrival?
Exactly.
This policy has never been adopted by advanced country because it's a dangerous policy. Anybody can come to your border, then you just give visa. If such a person cannot get visa in his own country, how come you are going to give him visa in the foreign land that he's going to? So when you put all these things together, you will not wonder. I like to read old newspaper. Go and read old newspaper and see what people who are in government today, what they said in the past. Then you will not be surprised. Go and read them. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and see what they talk. All their statement is about indirectly supporting Boko Haram. So how can such people fight Boko Haram?
In addition to what you said, quickly from anybody that comes up and says that we are battling with the crisis of Libya is obviously either unschooled, unintelligent, or just deliberately lying. The Libya crisis started well after the Boko Haram crisis in Nigeria. Gaddafi, the move against Gaddafi started in 2012, about to 2013 to remove Gaddafi. And as at that time, it didn't even become violent until like 2014 when there was like what you could call like a civil war, armed insurrection in Libya. So how do you now just oppose that to tell me Libya is responsible for the crisis in Nigeria? If you had mentioned the Tuareg rebels in Mali, probably we want to scale, but even that even came up after Boko Haram, and you could even say Boko Haram was spilled over. And like I came up with a post, and I probably want to be ambitious with it. For you to understand the ideology of Boko Haram and what they are gunning for, check and go back in history and read up the old Borno Empire, old Kanemi Empire. Look at the map and place it on present-day Africa, and you see where the crises are going on. That shows you that is the new ideology of Boko Haram. That is what they are gunning for, either Boko Haram or ISWAP. And if you look at the map and look at the countries involved, you probably will, and look at the brand of Islam involved. It gives you an idea of the foreign collaborators, either from Europe or from Persian Gulf. I will leave it at that.
Okay, Yamisa, let me ask you a question. I know most people find we're expressing disappointment about the federal government's disposition and insincerity in fighting insecurity. But do you not see that poverty is another way, or rather is one of the reasons why we have insecurity prevailing in the northern part of Nigeria? If they reinstitute these people and give them training skills, don't you think that this would help in the fight against insecurity? Because we cannot erase the fact that poverty and hunger is what is also driving people, apart from psychological or rather religious sentiments.
Well, I was going to say this to you. I had a UN study that says if you educate a lady to probably secondary school level, increase your GDP marginally by 0.002%. Now imagine you're educating a woman to the university level. Now bring it back to the northern Nigeria. The number of girl-child education, the amount, the percentage of girl-child education, that is one. You could want to claim poverty is it. But the poverty you're claiming is prevailing. The poverty is widespread across the country.
Yes.
It's not just a peculiar thing to the northern region. It's widely, evenly spread. But you want to say how it possibly because of lack of population control, childbirth control. But they'll tell it's their culture. So that's why sometimes when people push advanced argument for what's it called, decentralization of government or restructuring, I support it, because by the time you are bearing the burden of the population explosion, you are encouraging, you will wise up.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
That's the street word, you wise up.
Okay, while we're still talking about the insincerity of federal government in dealing with the Boko Haram insurgents, as I said earlier on, we had news on Friday of Boko Haram blocking Yobe Highway and, of course, battling soldiers in Adamawa. And let's not forget that on February 19th, Wednesday 2020, it marked 2 years since Leah Sharibu and 109 other schoolgirls were kidnapped from their schools in Dapchi, Yobe State by Boko Haram. And from recent reports, we know that, we heard reports that Leah Sharibu is married off to one of the Boko Haram generals and has also given
and they're not thinking of radicalizing or rehabilitating
and has also given birth to a baby boy.
They're thinking of radicalizing and granting amnesty or probably giving a rapist money. That is the translation of what they are trying to do.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll see how far that goes. I'm sure
we can't go far with this nonsensical idea. We can't. We don't let us do.
In other words, we're against the idea of any agency, but rather.
No.
If you want me to de-radicalize them, I'll give you a quick one. If you want me to de-radicalize Boko Haram suspect, just give me 3 weeks. I'll keep them in an underground cell. No sunlight. I will mess up your thinking. I'll bring you at 3 a.m. I'll tell you this another day. By the time I'm releasing after 3 weeks, you think you spend 3 months. You'll be useless to your gang members. Not giving you money. I will deprive you. I will feed you on 2 weeks on just water and sugar, just not to keep you alive.
I hope they are taking hints of all this.